Okay, everyone, I am really, really excited today because I am joined by Mark O'Brien. Now, this guy, he is in so many hit movies recently. I don't know how he finds all the perfect roles to take, but you know him from Arrival, Ready or Not, Marriage Story, City on a Hill, and now he's in this new film, Parallel, where he plays Josh. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay, all things considered. Yourself?
I'm doing good, man. So, it's interesting. I always get excited to see you in anything you're in. And what actually kind of drew me into this movie was seeing you in this film, but seeing that it was more of like a mind bending movie that you're in. And I, I'm wondering about your character, Josh, right? So he seems pretty reckless. He loves girls with boyfriends. But at the end of the day, I feel like all this guy really wants to do is blow up $1 million. So, what is about that? Like, tell me, like, really the core of this guy you see when you view this character.
Well, first of all, that whole idea was improvised. But anyway, I can come to that later. What I liked about the role was that this is a guy who is smart and he wants to get ahead, but is also emotional and kind of wears everything kind of on his sleeve. But at the same time, he kind of just wants to have a good time, which is kind of refreshing. There's so many downers that happen in a film like this that it's nice that someone's like just kind of just trying to have a good time and then can kind of just blow it off and go on to the next thing. And it's kind of nice to play a character like that. It's pretty liberating. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, it's. I mean, we kind of showed this in the trailer anyway, but of course, there's another Josh and there's another character because we're parallel universes.
Speaking of you now actually playing two parts in this film, did you have more fun playing the Josh we started with or this crazy confused Josh?
I kind of both have their challenges. I actually kind of like the Josh we start with because he's kind of just fun and just kind of doing whatever. And I think as an actor, when you get to do that, like I said, it's kind of liberating. You kind of can sort of do anything, and you kind of don't know what you're going to do when you're going into the scene, and that's what's kind of fun when you're playing a really open character like that. You don't know what they're going to do, even as the actor who's performing it, and that's kind of the juice. That's kind of the fun of the whole thing.
So, but when you're switching now though to the other version of Josh where he's more confused, did you film a lot of those scenes like after you did the original Josh scenes? And how do you get into that state of mind as an actor where you got to kind of now pretend you don't know what the hell's going on?
Yeah, well, no, we didn't. It was all shot out of sequence, all over the place. It's just seeing where they're coming from right now, and as an actor, that's something that's kind of your job is like to be able to find a way into something that might be completely different from what you shot the day before, and you have to be kind of willing and open to let those things kind of happen as it is. I love that kind of stuff because if I had to go play the same thing every single day, I would go out of my mind.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, great, cool, great, let's switch it up, let's do something else. So I kind of relish those opportunities.
Yeah, that's really cool that you think that way about it. And yeah, it comes off in your performance clearly that you love what you're doing. And I really am just impressed because when I look at your career so far, it's like I'm just seeing hit after hit and great projects you pick. So I have to ask, before you even accept a role, are you really taking in the script first? Do you feel like you have an eye for something that might be garbage or might be good to join?
I think so. I'm a film lover. I mean, I literally watch a different movie every single day that I've never seen. So yeah, which I've been doing since I was a teenager. So I'm a film freak. So I think from watching so many movies, you do kind of have an eye, and honestly, you kind of get a vibe within the first few pages. And that doesn't mean the first few pages you need to have like an explosion and this that. It's more just like this is someone who knows the story they're telling, and I'm sucked in. And then you look at the filmmaker's work, or even if they haven't had any work, just what they have to say, like if it's a first time filmmaker. So that's what I kind of look for, and I think at a certain point your instincts kind of get honed into being like, this is the one. And there have been big jobs I've been up for that I didn't feel right, and then
Mm.
and then you don't end up getting them, and then you're like, good, I think that actually was not the right one. And then there are other things that you're just like, I just know it. I just know that's the one. That's the one. And so I just really push for the ones that I want. And I think it's also too like kind of the stars kind of align with like the films that and TV shows I've been lucky to be in over the past 5-10 years are things I would want to watch. So I think
Mm.
that my interests are probably in line with the filmmakers as it is already because I'm like, this is the kind of stuff I want to watch. This is kind of what I'm into. So I probably maybe know the tone really well because that's the kind of stuff I watch over and over. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I definitely am very, very picky about what I do.
Sure. And I think that's super important as an actor. And I think you do a good job at what you're picking. And I love this film, Parallel. So what was it, though, when you first saw the script for Parallel or heard about it that maybe sucked you in? What did you like about it?
I really liked the conceit, and I really liked that it wasn't just about that to start. It was about these four people. It reminded me of that film Shallow Grave, the Danny Boyle movie in the 90s. It's kind of like, I like that aspect a lot, that these are just real people trying to do something together, and then this other thing is almost like an accent on what's happening. It's not actually what's happening. It's just like there's a color of what's happening now, this mirror into a parallel universe. So for me, I was interested in the characters, and then I just wanted to see what was going to happen. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And really, it just comes down to that. I think films that are just like really clear to the point. I mean, I'm a writer as well, and when I write, like one of the biggest notes I give myself, or I give to someone else, or they give to me, is always kind of pare it down. Just simplify it. Simplify it. What's it about? And then as the reader and the watcher, you're like, great, what's going to happen next? I just want to see what's going to happen next. Yeah. And I think that the script did a really good job of that. And so, yeah, I was excited when I was reading it. I burned through it because I wanted to, for fun.
See, that's really cool. And it's exciting you mentioned that you're a writer as well, because you're also a director. You wear so many hats. If you look at your resume, you have so many skills with cinematography, even in editing. So you have this project coming up that's your first feature film, The Righteous. Can you give us a little insight into this, when we might expect it to come out, what it's about?
Yeah, well, it's a tough year to release films because we just finished it about a month ago. And, film festivals are very mitigated or canceled. We have Canadian distribution because I made it in Canada. But everyone just kind of doesn't really know what to do. I mean, look at Wonder Woman. Like, even the big movies are kind of like, we don't really know. So in regards to release, I'm kind of just sitting back and letting it's going to live its own trajectory, and that's okay. And that's kind of hard to come to terms with as a filmmaker because you just want it out there. But I can be patient on it and see how the chips fall. But in terms of what it's about, I think the films I'm always most drawn to have been the films of Bergman and Tarkovsky and Carl Theodor Dreyer, and then recently, Yorgos Lanthimos, and I love those films that you're like, I have no idea, or David Lynch films and Kubrick, where you're like, Jonathan Glazer, I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know. These filmmakers and their films, I'm not comparing my films, but as a film watcher, I just was like, not only do I not know what's going to happen, I don't know how they're going to show things next. Anything could show up on the screen. So I've been inspired by that, and it's really about a film about a man's struggle with God and our own sins and trying to confront them. And it's a bit of a psychological horror, but really rooted in character. And I think we can all kind of relate to things we've done that kind of eat us up. And especially within the confines of a religion, I think it makes it even more tough for someone. So all those elements kind of came together, and I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of it. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's the film I wanted to make.
No, that's super exciting. I can't wait to see it. I think people are so excited to see what you can do as a writer and director doing a feature film as well. And the last thing I wanted to ask you was, because you do so much with acting, writing, directing, and you have such experience with all this stuff, do you have to constantly feel like you have to keep learning at each craft? And how do you space out I got to touch up on my camera work, or I got to touch up on reading about editing? Do you constantly kind of feel like you have to keep challenging yourself, or how do you balance that?
I think you have to. I constantly, I always say your passion will inform you. So, when I see a book of, Walter Murch talking about editing, I'm going to buy it. And if I see a book of Vilmos Zsigmond talking about cinematography, I'm going to buy it. And so those things, it's just my interest and it's my passion. So you'll never stop learning. My God, you're 100 years old and you'll still be learning, just like we all will with any practice. But certainly with this, and so that's why I watch a movie every day. I'm always reading 2 books on film. I watch every movie that comes out, and I read every interview, and just because you're always going to pick up things, they come to light to help you at the times you never expect it. And you're shooting, and you have an hour, and you got to shoot this scene, and then all of a sudden you remember, oh yeah, I remember in that interview with John Cassavetes, he said that. It comes back to you, and you're like, oh great, so glad I read that. So it's so I'm obsessed, and I love it, and it's also my job. So yeah, I kind of suck in that learning. I get a high from it. I enjoy it. So I actually feel very fortunate to like what I do for a living so that I can always be wanting to get better as opposed to struggling to get better. So I consider it a privilege in that way.
I absolutely love that answer. That might be my favorite answer I've ever had in an interview because I totally relate to what you're saying. Just with when I'm reviewing and interviewing people, just that loving of reading about it and learning constantly. And it's just fun because now everyone listening can see that you really love what you do. It shows. And I think that makes people appreciate you even more. So everyone, out today is Parallel. It's in select theaters and on demand. I really believe this film is excellent. And there's a huge list on Reddit of mind-blowing films. This has to be added to that list. It's totally deserving of it. Mark, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. Take care.